What's happening, people? We're back for a Arsenal Daily. We're going to be trying to provide as much as we can, content-wise, particularly around the international break, anyway. But obviously, moving forward around Arsenal news as it comes in. There's been, do you know what's crazy, Lee? Is no club football, but there seems to be a lot of talk on Conte getting sacked, and new deals, and everyone's missing. I think Premier League football, mate. So, big up everyone in the chat. Smash a like and subscribe if you're new. We're on the road to 40k people. Big up Terry in the chat as well. I'm going to read this out because I love Tel and he's trying to have a dig at us, Judge here. Look at this. Afternoon, Judges. Great to see you. And last game, Dan. This is fantastic news. Thank God we didn't listen to you two and sack Arteta for Conte. Listen, big up Terry. Hope you're well, bro. And good to see you, mate. Listen, Lee, let's talk a little bit about some of the news that's been happening. There's a lot of rumours around new deals, and we all know who we want to be signing these contracts. Of course, one of them is Saka, the other one is Saliba, and Martin Odegaard rumoured to be close. All three of them close to new deals at the club. Now, I don't want to ask you the stupid question of do you want them to sign? I think everybody wants these guys to have a long-term future at the clubs. But if I was to ask you in terms of likelihood out of 10, out of those three players, what are you giving it rating that they're going to sign? How confident are you out of 10 that they're going to sign the three of them?
Just before we start, the cake was lovely, by the way.
Yes, well done, Sue. Is it Sue?
That was lovely. So,
well done, Sue.
I personally think Saka's done. I think that's done. I've been saying that for a long while. Like, you know what I mean? I just think he's just got to sign it now and everything's done. I think that ODEGAARD is a definite as well. I'm pretty confident in that one. I'm a little bit worried about Saliba. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit worried about that one. And I'll tell you why. Because, listen, for me, Saka gets what he wants. Gets what he wants. I don't care, you know, reported like 300,000 a week and all that. People are going, oh, if it's too much, don't care. At the end of the day, it didn't cost us a penny. Now, if we're looking at it, Dan, and be really honest about this, if we was to lose Saka for nothing, just say like, you know, he runs out his contract losing for nothing, how much is it going to cost to get somebody of that ilk and also pay out that wages? A lot more than 300,000 a week. So for me, it's a good business. You get it done, get him on a long-term deal, and I think get the best out of what we can for Saka. Like, you know, Martin Odegaard has been a revelation since he's come to the club. No two ways about it. £35 million bargain. So at the end of the day, going to be good money for him as well. Now, the one for me, a little bit of a worry, a little bit of concern for me is Saliba. And I'll tell you why, because he'll be looking at what Saka's getting. He'll be looking at what Martin Odegaard is getting. And he'll also have a little look what Eddie's getting. And I think at the end of it, you've got to look at it and say to yourself there, I want not probably as much as what Saka's on, probably not quite as much as what Odegaard potentially is going to be on, because he's going to be captain and everything like that with bonuses. But I want to be as near as damn it to that. And a lot further up the food chain than somebody like Eddie. So I think, you know, you're looking at 150 a week minimum for Saliba, a quality player as he is. Now, if you don't get that deal done this season, or to the end of next, like beginning of next season, then I'm going to be worried, because we can't afford to let him go for nothing. So I will be a very, very relieved fan if he does sign a new deal. I do think that he will do. But I think negotiations are going to be a little bit more tricky than what people think.
Listen, I agree on the Saliba thing, and my reasons are that the other two have been at the club for a lot longer, and they seem to, particularly Saka anyway, loves the club. Martin Odegaard, captain, looks to me as to be the kind of loyal type around the Arsenal. And Saliba, I know for a fact there'll be teams sniffing around him, and big teams as well. We're not talking about, you know, sideways steps here for Saliba and someone who's going to play him. He's playing in an unbelievable side at the moment, and Real Madrid and PSG will be two clubs sniffing around him. So it really depends on how in love with the project Saliba is. Now, I think all of them will sign, Lee. I really do. I think all three of them will. I'm confident Saka and Martin Odegaard will both sign. And if I was to give a rating out of 10 of how confident, I would both say, I'd say 9 for both of them. Bless you. Uh, but for me, with Saliba, I'm going to say a 7 because I am more confident that he will than not. But there's just a little bit of doubt in my mind that he's going to look at this project and think, yeah, my head ain't turning for Real or PSG. I don't care. But I'm hoping I'm completely wrong and he does go and he's all in it 100% because I love the kid and I think he's going to be top. But I looked at the wages today, Lee, right? And there's rumours that Makai Saka is going to be on potentially up to 300k a week, right? Between 250 and 300. And I was looking at the players and what they're on, and I've got them in front of me here. So obviously, Gabriel Jesus is on 265k a week. He's the highest weekly player, right? Thomas Partey's on 200k a week. Zinchenko 150. Ben White 120. Granit Xhaka 120. Erdegaard's already on 115, but will obviously sign, I imagine, a similar price to Partey and Jesus over the 200 mark. You've got Kieran Tierney on 110. Eddie's on 100. Martinelli's going to be changed now because he's signed his new deal, but he's on 90 at the moment, but that might be up now. Saka's currently on 70. And then it goes down from there. Now, there's one player that's on 50k a week, Gabriel. I'll be surprised if he don't sign another contract soon when the others are giving those lifts. Because for me, for Eddie Nketiah to be on double what Gabriel's on, it won't be long before he's starting to knock on that door as well. So it's a very interesting one for me now, Lee, seeing how we're going to keep these players happy at this club. And it's going to be interesting because it's completely, we've scrapped it and we've started again now. Before when we had Kolasinac on 125k, Jenkinson, I think, was on more than Luka Modric was at one stage in the career. All this madness that was going on previously. It's going to be really interesting to see what Arteta does to get that sort of togetherness and happiness within the dressing room. So I'm really interested to see that. But do you care what players are on? And I mean in that in terms of how much they're on, they should be on more, or wow, they're on too much. That kind of works both ways, that question, Lee.
No, I don't care. Never bothered me like, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you get what you deserve at the end of the day. And football is a multi-million pound business. And if if you're good enough, then you get what you've done. I've always been at this thing. They're all saying in the chat that Gabriel signed the new deal.
Yeah, I've just seen that. Maybe I missed that then. If
Yeah,
he's
I
on
think
more,
that-
then fair play.
I think that he did. Well, what I would look at it and say is that, listen, if Arsenal are not prepared to pay that sort of money, there's plenty of clubs that will do. And
great
we're
point.
supposed to be this big club, so at the end of it, for me, I think that you have to look at that. I'm guaranteeing it now. If you was to say to Saka, and I'm pretty sure other clubs have tried to tap him up and all that, well, we give you this and give you that. He's probably on the same amount of money or a little bit even higher. But it's if you want to sign for the Arsenal, you're not going to get the top money. That you're not going to get the wages and the deal that say Arsenal that you're going to get with Chelsea or Manchester City or perhaps even Newcastle nowadays. Players will know that, but it's not just about money. Financially, you want to get what's paid for you. I remember, you remember Ashley Cole was going to England games, wasn't he? And Michael Bridge was not Michael Bridge. I think the Michael there, like Wayne Bridge. Because I mean, like I'm pretty sure Michael weren't on that much.
He weren't a left back,
but Wayne Bridge was like on like double the amount of Ashley Cole. And so Ashley Cole was in coming home thinking, wow, like, you know what I mean? Oh, come on, I need to be, and that's when it can get tricky. So like the likes of Saka, not so much Odegaard, but certainly Saliba in France will be going away on international duty. And they will be saying, well, how much you on and all that, like, and things like that. Well, at PSG, I'm getting £200,000 a week, like, and if you're a better centre half than that, you start thinking like down those lines. So for me, if Arsenal are not prepared to pay it, someone else will, and then you get players unsettled, and we don't want that. Also, we're in a project now where you can see things are happening. We're starting to look like we might win the title this season, and so all of a sudden, it's not just about money, Dan. It's also about trophies as well. Like we could be looking like we're going to win things as well. So there's two incentives to sign. One, that you're going to get a good whack, and you're also got a chance of winning trophies, which, if I'll be honest, Dan, that a couple of years ago wasn't the scenario, wasn't the case. So for me, I've got no issues or no problems with what these players play for. The problems that you will get is, say, for instance, if they sign these big deals, which has happened in the past, and then they stop performing. I have to say, even like when you look at Mo Salah at Liverpool, since he signed that big contract, form's dipped down. I
Agreed.
don't know if you lose that little bit as a desire. I don't
Could it
know
be
when
an
you're.
Ozil and Aubameyang situation? You never
Well,
know.
yeah, I'm not. He's not run off the cliff, is he? But he's not
No.
at the same level that he was. So it's a difficult one. Like, when you look at Haaland be on unbelievable money when he's talking about it at Manchester City. He'd be sitting in the plane next to Martin Odegaard, and that question will come up. So listen, Arsenal will have to pay. Also, don't forget now, if we get into the Champions League, it puts us on a different thing. So there's no excuses for these players not to be paid big money. Also, when you look at all three of them, and I'm going to include Saliba in this, that we've not paid mega money for them. I think, like Martin Odegaard, 35 million. Come on, as a snip. I think Saliba was 27 million. Gabriel was 25 million. Come on. These are all bargain deals. So at the end of it, get them on the big contracts. And also, if you put them on a big contract with a lot of money, Dan, say, for instance, with Saka, it does keep people away, because not only have they got to pay the wages, they've also got to pay a big fee as well. So it keeps the old dogs from sniffing at the door as well. So I think it's important that we get these deals done.
Let's make it interesting then, shall we? Let's ask you this. I'll ask you two questions, but I'll ask you this one first. In order of importance, out of those three players, what are you going for in terms of who signs? Who's the most important to sign? Who's the least important? And who's the second important?
Well, I think I think that Saka's the most important, regardless, because he's the top player. I then think Saliba's more important because he's got more of a short-term contract than Martin Odegaard. They're all very, very important, but I think that Martin's got at least another couple of years left on his contract anyway. But these two deals are getting close now. They're getting a little bit too close for comfort, if I'll be honest. If I'll be really honest, a year left in your contracts. I remember Arsenal saying they never let this happen again, but they have. I do believe they'll let this happen because they know that they're confident that they're going to get these deals done. So I do think that it's there in purely on contract length and time left on them, really. So, but Saka is very, very important. At the end of the day, I do believe that the way Arsenal are going and the way they're playing at the moment, Saka will be even mad for himself to say, I'm knocking this on the head and going somewhere else. Because I could see it a couple of years ago. Say, like, if we was where we are now, 3 years down the line, you're going to get the Harry Kane situation where you want to be winning things. But it looks like Arsenal are a very, very good side at the moment. It can only get better. And with the likes of these young players in there, I think Saliba is just as important as a Martinelli or a Saka in so many ways as well, because what Saka gives us as a forward player and everything like that, Saliba's the same sort of ilk player as a defensive player. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, defenders don't come with the same sort of price tag, but he's at the elite level youngster for a defender. And, like where Saliba is at the elite level for a youngster up front. So, I think it's very, very important. Listen, I also think it's important that people like Gabriel have signed as well already, and Martinelli as well. So it just shows you they're on the right path. And, and at the end of the day, Odegaard's going to, 24? He wants a slice of the pie. Don't blame him for that, And what we've got to do is make sure that all of our young talent is all signed up for a very, very long time. The likes of Xhaka and Partey are coming into their 30s now. I don't think they're as key as these three guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to go with the same order as you because I feel like the ceiling of Saka and Saliba could be world elite level right now at 21. Martin Odegaard is 23, is he? 23, 24?
24.
Yeah. And I think he's unreal. Don't get me wrong, but he is not with a year left on his deal. So you'd have to say the other two are more important and more
Yeah.
pushing concerns right now. So this is the next horrible question then. Out of those three players, which would you be least disappointed about losing that we felt I could replace one of those? That's the next question, which is horrible and hard to answer. Because it
Oh,
could come, Lee, that one of them does go, and I hope that ain't the case. I really don't think that's going to happen. But
I'll
one of
be
them could go right now, and I'll be devastated. But if it
yeah.
was to happen, which one would you say? Okay, we're going to have to let him go because the other two can't.
I would be. Oh, I'll be very, very disappointed if Saliba went. I have to say that because I think he's made such a massive difference to Arsenal. Odegaard, I think maybe we could replace with somebody else. That's a tough question. You know what I mean? Saka is a no-go, in it? Like, you know what I mean? I suppose at the end of the day, maybe Odegaard because of the age thing. I think Saliba and Saka are just the best two players in the world at their age. I don't think there's no one better. Is there anybody at the same age as I don't know. It's a real tough question. But for me, they're all great players, all very, very important to us. But I also think Saliba is very, very important to us as well because of the way we've handled it. Look, you're looking further down the line, what's going to happen with Balogun. I think that people will look at it and see what's happened with Saliba. And I think that all the hype with Saliba, all the talk about him over these last couple of years, so just have one wonder season of him and then let him go would be a bit too much for us to take, if I'll be honest.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I don't think you can get rid of either of those two players for the simple reason that there ain't nobody better at that age than those two in world football, in my opinion. I've not seen a defender like Saliba at that age. I still ain't seen one. There ain't one that I can replace him with. I can't replace Saka, if I'm honest with you. So it's going to be very, very difficult. But I would have to go with Odegaard as well because there are options out there that you could probably replace him. But even if you did try to replace him, you wouldn't get a Martin Odegaard because he's up there at the moment with being one of the best as well. So it's really
Exactly
hard.
that.
It's really, really hard.
Exactly that. I think for me, I think that Odegaard is a one-off in that position. Who does that role better?
Yeah.
Than him at this moment in time. I don't think anybody does. If I'll be honest, I think that he's he's one of those players, isn't he? Like like he's got all the talent, but he's prepared to work as hard as anybody else. So that's a difficult one. I wouldn't want to lose any of them if I'll be honest.
It's a horrible question, mate. Horrible question. Who thought of that question, eh?
Yeah.
Listen, I hope the three of them sign, and I do feel that they will. I think they're all absolutely vital moving forward. So it's really good if that happens. Guys, we're going to touch on a couple more bits, but just to let you know, whack some questions in. We're more than happy to take them. Make sure you put a queue beforehand so that Dave can find out what it is. If you do want to hit a super chat, then please do. That will go straight to the top. And we'll ask that one as well. Lee, I hope the three of them sign. They're all going to be on a lot of money. That means a bright future. Someone else who has a future up in the air at the moment is Balogun. Now, he's been absolutely killing it in France. And I mean killing it. The numbers are unbelievable. Up there with Mbappe. And people will say that's a farmers league. So I'm going to tell you what I would do with Balogun. I'm going to ask you. I would keep him. 100% I'd keep him. I wouldn't sell him. But I would loan him out in England next season because I think we need a striker. But I don't want to not get a striker and bring Balogun back and then realise that actually he ain't quite cutting it in England yet because he ain't quite ready. Now, he might absolutely fly and be like a Saliba. I have no idea. But I would rather go and get an Osimhen, allow Balogun to play Premier League football at Palace, Brighton, Wolves for a season and see what he's like there. Because I felt that's what Eddie missed. He went to Leeds, didn't play, and League Cup. I don't want to bring Balogun back this season coming and have him for a League Cup player. That's what I don't want to see happen. I'd love to see him in England. If he starts scoring goals, yeah, put it in the contract that you can bring him back as well, by the way, and call him back at any point. We will realise actually this kid's made for England as well. And that's what I would do personally. So I don't want him leaving. Sign him up, get him, bring him back, make sure that he's here long term. And that's my personal opinion. What about yourself, mate?
Do you know what? It's a great point. I would want him back. I don't think that we should be selling him. I also think that we should probably give him a bit of a longer contract. But do you know what? Where it would be a good place for him to go?
Go on.
West Ham United.
Yeah.
And just sort of say to him, look, we'll have Declan Rice, but we'll give you Balogun on loan for a year. West Ham are crying out for a forward, somebody like that. You know what I mean? Brighton, maybe, if the case, if we want to get Casida or something like that, that would be something that I would look at. Because if I look at Declan Rice, if I be really honest, I think that, West Ham fans, I think, know that he's going to be going at the end of the season. Now, where he goes that's the issue. The issue is not he's not going to leave West Ham. He's going to leave West Ham in the summer. So try and make it smooth running. If he does want to come to Arsenal, let's have a look at him and say to him, look, you have Balogun. Because I think that if I look at West Ham at this moment in time, the one thing I do think they lack is goals. So, and then they could have him on loan. Crystal Palace would be another option, at the end of it. But I would like to keep him in London as well, so that he's nearby, making him feel welcome and see what happens. And listen, nowadays, Dan, you can have these contracts where you can put him on a 3 or 4 year contract and have him on loan for a couple of seasons and things like that. So, Real Madrid done it with Danny Ceballos, for instance, didn't they? We had him for a couple of years on loan. So for me, that's what I would do, and see how it goes from there. So look, listen, Jude Bellingham, another one. He can go. I'll let him go on loan to Dortmund for a year for that. But
Yeah.
but no, seriously, I think for his development as well, I think that he needs to start banging and go. Listen, if he was to have the season that he's had now in the Premier League next season, just say that, for instance, argument's sake, he went to West Ham and he's banged in 17 league goals so far this season. Wow. One thing that's going to happen is if Arsenal do sell him, he's going to be a big price. And if he does come back, we've got one hell of a player. So that's how I look at it. I think it's a win-win for Arsenal if I'll be honest.
Yeah, listen, I do as well. And I don't actually care where he goes as long as he's playing first team football in the Premier League. I don't want to see him on the bench at a club because I'd rather him just stay in France, killing it, or a club that's going to play him. I don't want him at Arsenal, fourth choice behind Jesus, Trossard, and Eddie, and then he's just coming on for a couple of League Cup games. Is my point. So that's for me what I would do, and I think it could be likely that could happen. So let's see what happens. Lastly, Lee, international break. Hasn't been any huge injury concerns, which is good, touch wood, but there are problems potentially with Thomas Partey and, of course, William Saliba, who wasn't international break, is obviously the injury news from Sporting Lisbon. Rodri did his best to try and injure Odegaard, but from what I hear, Odegaard's okay. Shocking tackle. And enough said about that. But for me, didn't play for Ghana, Thomas Partey, apparently, in one of the games I saw. They didn't want to risk him, so he's obviously pulled out. I don't think he's injured. I think it's precautionary from what I'm hearing, but I don't know if you've heard anything more on that, Lee, with Partey.
No, I've just heard the same. Look, listen, if he's on the bench, then I don't think it's too much of an issue. That's the one thing I take from it. If he would have actually been pulled right out of it, I think that's a different scenario. How I see it is he might be just slightly aching, a little bit of a, because he played the game before. And if things weren't going particularly right in that game, maybe then he would have come on just to see him over, But they got a point at the end of it. Got enough points in the last 2 games. So I think it was more precautionary than anything else. And it's good to see a manager, Chris Hughton, of course, ex-Spurs, but looking after our player. I think he realises that he don't want to upset Arsenal as well, make it harder in the long term. So I think it's a very, very good thing, precaution-wise. But this is the panic. Out of all the players, the one player I'm always worried about going away on international duty is Thomas Partey because of that. I don't think it's too much of a thing. We're at homes against Leeds. I think that if I'm going to be really honest about it, I would perhaps leave Thomas Partey on the bench for this one anyway, and make sure that he's fit for Liverpool. But every game's a cup final now, isn't it? Yeah, I don't think you can sort of say, right, I'm going to rest someone in this one and that one. If he's fit, he plays. If there is a slight doubt, then we've got cover.
Yeah, listen, I agree. And if he's fit, he plays. If he's got a knock, then he's on the bench. That's the way it is for me. But I don't think this one's not much to worry about. Avik in the chat is saying Charles Watts said it's precautionary and not to worry. I also heard, Lee, that Saliba is not out for weeks and weeks and weeks and
Yes.
weeks. Now, I don't know how true that is, because what I'm worried about is that Arsenal have kept it hush hush. Now, if they've done that for mind games and to try and keep their cards close to the chest, perhaps they have, because he'd be a big, big, big blow if he's out for a long time, because it does weaken the back. I think we might see him at Anfield. That's my kind of in my head where I'm looking at. Might miss the Leeds game. What's your thoughts and what have you heard?
Exactly that. I think that he definitely picked up a back injury because he came off at half time in that in the first half, didn't he, against Sporting? So I don't think we've done it because the France games and things like that. I don't think he'd have even played in those French games anyway. So I think that it was like 2 weeks. So he's been out for a couple of weeks now, pushing it for Saturday, if I'll be honest, pushing it. But it wouldn't surprise me if he is playing on Saturday, I'll be honest. But I think, again, maybe leave him out and just get him ready for that Liverpool game as well. Rob Holding done exceptionally well in the last game as well. And so he can fill in for that game as well. But listen, I want Saliba back and as soon as possible, if I'll be honest, Dan. He's a big, big player for us. It'd be very interesting what team will line up against Leeds, because I don't think you can take Leeds lightly and sort of say it's a guaranteed win.
Well, let me ask you this then, because if the back four is no Tomiyasu and no Saliba, what are you going with? Are you bringing Holding in, or are you going to go Tierney right back and Ben White right centre back next to Gabriel?
I would bring in Holding because he done okay in the last game. Tierney's done, do you know when you panic for these games, for the Scotland games, this has been good for him. He's had like 90 minutes on
Got some football
Saturday.
finally.
He's got some football under his belt. So, he'll play tonight against Spain. So another good competition. So another 90 minutes for him. So it means that we haven't had to give him some minutes in play. So he'll be pleased with that. Certain players have been rested, like i.e. Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, Martinelli as well, all been rested. And other players that perhaps needed a few minutes have got them. So Smith Rowe. So for me, I think Holding comes in this game and keep it as it is. The Ben White Saka combination, I think, is a good one, Dan. I think, we've got to try and keep that as much as we can. Listen, if anything happens to Ben White, then I think Tierney would be okay in that position. Don't forget Tomiyasu went over to left back on a couple of occasions this season, so I don't think it's too much of a problem. And we see it there. Actually, don't know if you noticed, but Zinchenko was playing as a right back or a right wing back towards the end of that England game, so he could possibly
Plays
play
anywhere, doesn't he?
Yeah, and put him over there and Tierney.
Someone suggested that Tierney left back and Zinchenko right back. That might be the way forward.
Yeah, that's something that you could do, So there you
could
go.
do. I don't normally like to weaken two positions, but I don't think we are in this case because Ben White can play centre back, so it's not like we're weakening the situation.
No.
Just quickly on Leeds, Willie Gnonto come off, probably their best player, to be fair, and he's a doubt, and he might be injured, along with Tyler Adams and Max Wober. So they are definite doubts and potentially injured for that game. So that's definitely going to be a Leeds side I want to play without Gnonto, because for me, he looks quality, Lee. He really does.
Yeah, and that's a big blow for Leeds. But Leeds will look at that and probably say, I know this is sounding like, well, we're away to Arsenal. Do I risk those players, or do I have them for the other 8 or 9 games that they've got? So there's some big decisions for Leeds because of that. The international break hasn't come at a good time for them because they just got their first win for a little while against Wolves, and now they've picked up a few injuries and a few knocks. Yeah, but I think all teams have come back from that. Spurs have got Emerson Rowe out, and they Royale out. So listen, you're going to pick up a couple of injuries along the way. We've got, don't forget, I think Switzerland play tonight as well. We've also got Scotland. So and Norway are playing tonight as well. So, we don't want we've got still three players coming playing tonight that we want to come back fit and healthy as well. So still another a day for us to worry, another day to worry, and hopefully they do come back.
Fair play, man. Listen, we're going to do some Q&A to wrap things up. Get your questions in, people. We're going to throw this one up first. Sakaya says, question, what salary will Declan Rice be on when he signs? He's optimistic that he's coming. I am too, actually. I do think we can get this one done, Lee. He's going to be on top whack, though, isn't he? He's going to be on the 250 mark for me.
250, yeah. 250, without a doubt. Yeah.
It's going to have to be. I mean, you know, if Saka and all the other lads are on 250, he's going to come in as this big name signing. He will be a marquee signing. I know he's at West Ham, but he will be. International, one that's going to be highly rated. We're going to have to pay the money. And I don't care. Like, I honestly don't care what these players are on. You know, Arsenal got to pay it if they want him. And if they don't want him, then don't pay it. That's the way I see it. So
exactly
that.
And you know, it'd be different when you're on with the Champions League money. Well, we'll see, won't we? So 200k, 250, I think is a fair whack for top class players. And you know, I think Declan Rice is in that mould, without a doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt. This next one comes in. Arteta Cone Man says, question, Lee and Dan, when Arsenal won the Premier League under Arsene Wenger, how were the parades? Were they similar to what City have Q&A for players around the stadium, or just a bust? Or Cor, can you take us back 19 years, Lee? Blimey.
Well, I
can.
I've
done the FA Cup ones, but I wasn't about for the. I mean, I obviously was there.
I can for that League One and the 98 one and all that. Like, you know, 250,000 people there.
Yeah,
that's how big it is. It goes all round to the round the start. Well, I don't know if it used to go for around Highbury, of course, but now, of course, Highbury's not there. So whether it'll drive past the Emirates and then on to the to the hall, you know, Islington Town Hall, and you know, you won't be able to hardly get to see it because it was packed. But listen, it's a great atmosphere. Hopefully it'll be a sunny day. If it does happen, it will be massive. If Arsenal win that league, that Bank Holiday Monday will be gridlocks.
Can I moan about something that used to happen? I used to wait at Highbury when we won the league. Why did they put the bloody trophy parade there? I used to sit there. I have to stood behind him. You can't see anything. Why can't they do it on the centre circle? I used to sit at the North Bank and think, and I went there at the Leicester game when I'm beaten, and I'm thinking, wish I was sat at the clock end right now so I can actually see him lifting a trophy. So do you know what I mean? I hope at the Emirates they do it at the centre circle, or they do it like in front of the tunnel so everyone can actually see it. That's all.
Yeah, well, you know, let's hope we find out. Like,
hopefully
it'll be on the centre circle. And you know, don't forget the reason they do this parade is because only 60,000 can get in. You know, only 38,000 back in the day at Highbury that can get into the ground and see it. And yeah, listen, it's a special thing. I'll be really honest with you, Dan. When I have a look at when other teams win it, I don't watch it because I don't like to see it. Like, you know, so I find it very difficult. But if Arsenal actually do win it, yeah, enjoy it because, like as you say, 19 years. I'm going to be really honest. When back in 2004 when we won it, I didn't think
never would have said that.
Never said 19 years later we still haven't won it, like, you know. So there you go. So yeah, it's listen, it's I'm not thinking about that at this moment in time. By the way, there's a long way to go.
There is. We're going to get through these ones quickly now, guys. Tyson's Fister says, question: Rice and Milinkovic-Savic or Bellingham for the same money? What are you going for? Bellingham or two for the same price?
Two for the price of one. Why not, though?
Yeah, I think I'm tempted with that. I think one. I think Rice and Milinkovic-Savic will cover both positions, and Bellingham will just cover the one. Anyway, but you know, Rice could do both. Milinkovic-Savic could probably do both. Bellingham could only really go the centre midfield role for me. He's not really a.
The thing is, Rice can play both. That's
exactly,
the thing.
and so can I think Milinkovic-Savic probably could as well.
Probably, yeah, but not as good as Rice. I don't know.
Yeah. Avik says, Lee and Dan, can you believe we'll play in the Champions League next season? Just by Champions League players, not like Spurs. I can't wait for that, Lee. Back in the Champions League, mate.
Listen, let's be honest, we're not really sort of thinking about that at the moment, are we? Because we're looking at the title. We're not looking at Champions League. I don't even know when we can officially say we're in the Champions League. I don't know when that'll be. So that just shows you how well we're doing at this moment in time. Yeah, I'm when we get there, I'll look forward to it next season. But for me, I'm just concentrating on these next 10 games and Leeds on Saturday. I can't believe that this game now. When it finished 2 weeks ago at Crystal Palace, you got 2 weeks, and now all of a sudden it's nearly on us, Dan. You know what I mean? Only 5 days, and we'll be back at the Emirates. So comes around quickly, and I'm looking forward to it. So Champions League football next season will be wonderful.
Certainly will. South London's finest beast says, if we win the league, how do you think players will view Arsenal and Arteta? Players, fans, neutral fans, football fans, and the media. Maybe not the media, but everyone else, I think, will view Arsenal as going down as one of the best in history in terms of the youngest team, youngest manager, a City team with Haaland to come up against. I think this will go down as one of the wins that people will remember. And in terms of Arteta, he'll be hailed as one of the greats because he's done it at a young age. So, any comments on that, Lee?
Yeah, no, exactly on that. Really, I think that everybody will look at Arsenal differently next season whether we win the league. But listen, if you win the league, it sets that a big bar of winners, and I just think it puts you in a different league, So 100%. Massive.
Absolutely massive. Right, we're going to go through this quick now. We'll do one each. I'll let you take this one, Lee. Elliot Roberts, thanks, mate. Says, do you think we'll sign a new alternate number 9 this summer?
No. I think we've got more important places to fill.
You think midfield will be the one that they go with?
I think we need 2 midfield players. Not to say necessarily replace Partey and all that, but you can't ask Partey and Xhaka to be doing it week in, week out in the Champions League and also the Premier League. So I think we need to address that. Then they're in their 30s as well. So I think maybe they're listen, if we sign Rice, we may and just Declan Rice. But I still think with that, you don't put all that effort in the Brighton midfield, Casida, and then don't go back. I don't know. I don't really know, so we'll have to wait and see. But for me, no, I don't think that we will.
Interesting one. Interesting. Stuart says, question, if someone said we'd win the league this year, but you can't go to a single game next season, would you take it?
Good question.
That's a horrible question. Yes, of course I would take it because we won the league. So for me, 100%. I don't want to see us next season if we're not going to win the league. So I'll definitely take winning the league for sure. I think that's what the question means.
Yeah, I think listen, we'd have this year, wouldn't we, following the team and winning the league this year, and it's been fantastic. And if it meant that, I couldn't go next season, I'd take that.
Fair play. Tyson Fish says, if Mbappe wanted to come to Arsenal, what happens to Martinelli, Jesus and Trossard? Well, Mbappe's not going to come to Arsenal, trust me. But if he was going to, then we'd keep the 3 of them because we need strength in depth. So Trossard and Martinelli would have to fight for their place along with Mbappe and Saka. And then you've got 4 players that are quality on each position. That's what I would say to that. But I'll be amazed if Mbappe does leave PSG to come to Arsenal. I think he'd be looking at Real Madrid in my opinion. But there we go. Is that it for questions? I'm going to guess that it is. Cool. Okay. Wicked. I'm getting told yes. We're going to wrap it up there, guys. Judges, this has been fun.
Yeah, enjoyed that. Lovely little 40 minutes. Gone really quick, isn't it? So always
it always does, mate, to be fair. Listen, we're going to be back as ASAP. Hopefully we'll try and get out as much as we can, as many daily contents as we can for you guys. Please make sure that you smash a like on your way out, people, and subscribe to the channel. That would be amazing. Until then, we'll see you next time, and up the Arsenal. Take care, guys.
Take care.